Have you ever heard of the secret 4th of July episode of Wallace and Gromit? Of course you haven't. That's why it remains a secret. Much like the secret of Mana, it is honey flavored ice creamish pieces falling from the sky that stay sweet even in sand. Or so I was taught at church. You see, I bought the VHS tape off of eBay because I was redirected by a link on ChristChan. Stare at Pepe the Frog's eyes for 576 seconds and win yourself a prize, it said in size 14 times New Roman Comic Sans font. But what it actually did was distract me while it redirected my browser by proxy to an eBay auction listing. $17.76 for a VHS tape? Well, that was an independent number, and my name is Hunter Biden. I was using my laptop. But my name's not Hunter Biden. Just a little referential humor. The VHS tape arrived at the White House lawn 5 days later. I live in a White House. I had to repaint it after my neighbor did damage to it. The Postal Service stopped delivering because my pet Chihuahua Heffy would bite the mailman's anus and make him bleed, so I had to take out the parcel using an elongated set of pliers 50 meters away. My neighbor, a morbidly obese yellow man with 2 strands of hair on top and a donut fetish, walked backwards into the hedges after I snatched the VHS tape from him with my rusty tool. I flipped the VHS tape through my second floor window and my aim was off and it fell into the toilet. After go-go gadgeting my 50 meters some more, I popped the tape into the VCR in my mom's bedroom and prepared for some quality entertainment because my mom was out teaching English as a second language to illegal Mexican immigrants. Well, Gromit, I propose a toast to all American friends, Wallace said, feeding peanut butter toast to his pet dog Gromit. Holy shit, you can't feed peanut butter to a dog. That kills them. Gromit started coughing and gagging while Wallace laughed for some reason. I'm going to fetch ye a pint of water, Wallace shrieked in his characteristic whatever part of England it is accent. Wallace sprayed Gromit in the face with a fire hose while a legion of ants marched out of Gromit's mouth holding picket signs. I stared on in disbelief. Ants in a Wallet and Gromit episode? The camera, if there is such a thing in animation, there isn't, zoomed in on the ants to reveal something shocking and not necessarily sinister, but truly unlikely. The ants were all dressed up in little colonial and Tory outfits, reenacting the American Revolutionary War. I sure do hope we win this time, Wallace exclaimed while Gromit jumped out of a window and casually walked back inside through the doggy door. No. I turned the VHS tape off. I placed it back in its envelope and left it back under the bush with "Return to Sender" written aggressively in size 24 black Arial Sharpie marker. What in the bloody heckin' blazes was this bollocks? Sorry for the cussing, but geez, it was as if it was created by Matt Stone and Trey Parker with South Park infamy. I turned around and was ready to head back inside when the VHS tape exploded. Shards of plastic, rubbery tape texture, and aggressive Sharpie marked tape label sprinkled all over my lawn while my neighbor turned around and called me stupid. My hedge was on fire. It was at that moment that I remembered my wife was dead and the kids had moved out. I ran back upstairs to call the police, but the phone cord had been mysteriously slashed. I shrieked even harder than I did the first time I'd seen purple drapes. My life was flashing before my eyes. I wouldn't even get to go to church on Sunday. I closed my eyes as my house burnt down around me. When I woke up, I was alive somehow. Alone. Everything had burnt to a crisp. It was just me, my TV, my VCR, and the VHS tape was still playing somehow. The tape had somehow survived the fire. Could this have been a sign from heaven above? "Stupid Flanders!" my neighbor exclaimed, throwing radioactive excrement all over my lawn and driving away to head off to the nuclear power plant where he worked. That was it. He must have used radioactive tools to preserve this remnant of my property. Could my neighbor have spared my life from this very TV, VCR, and VHS tape to share with me a message that would change my life for the better forever? After all, he did kill my wife. Even if it was an alleged accident. Allegedly. In any event, I watched the VHS tape some more. George Washington Ant was crossing the Delaware River using a spork as a row as the World Trade Center burned in the background. What the bloody heck? Listen, I don't mean to swear, but this tape was offensive. And so was my neighbor for doing this to me. The next scene depicted the Boston Tea Party with ants wearing Native American headdress while a man-sized red ant farted fire across the screen and freaking exploded. I let out a prayer for the ant. Finally, the scene in which Thomas Jefferson Ant writes the Declaration of Independence was shown. He bit off Benedict Arnold Ant's head with those big things ants have that protrude from their mouths and uses ant blood as ink. Ugh. Gosh, this was grotesque. Just as I was about to turn off this Tim Burton-style VHS tape and cry myself to sleep out in the middle of my open, burned-down house, and therefore had no power to supply the TV and the VCR and VHS tapes, so this tape shouldn't have been playing. This doesn't make sense. I noticed Wallace and Gromit finally come back on screen. They were in the office, and Gromit was president in the Oval Office. They never said anything about a dog not being allowed to be a president of the United States, Wallace informed the audience of one, me. Wallace cupped his mouth and whispered to the audience, "That and they don't know that we're British." Oh crap, gargonzo beans. I couldn't even believe what happened next. Like a scene out of Pee-wee's Playhouse, the word of the day, British, flashed on screen in all caps while the talking chair from Pee-wee's Playhouse bit off the head of Boris Johnson. Pee-wee Herman's genie turned into Robin Williams and flew out the freaking window, ignoring the bloody cuts and gashes all over his skin from glass shards stuck inside of him. And a dodo bird dropped a cartoon bomb like something out of Super Mario Bros. 2 USA version, of course, and blew up the entire Pee-wee's Playhouse. Wallace and Gromit were dead. And even worse, the White House exploded. And that was just it. My lesson was learned. You see, friends, American, English, or Swahili, we all take the freedoms and luxuries that we have for granted. We might think we're safe from devastation, but nature, much like space, is constantly trying to kill us. And so is the human mind. We can't help but go to war with our dear brothers and sisters because we have a strange curse, an obsession with desiring more and more stuff. Supposedly, cause of liberty. More hedges, more VHS tapes, more houses, radioactive fecal matter. It doesn't matter that my wife died and my kids left me and the Reverend will no longer return my phone calls because I think Dunkin' Donuts is a sin. What really matters? What really matters? What really matters inside is that we're all one great big human family. Not always happy, but we darn well should be. That was beautiful. I let out a single teardrop and ejected the VHS tape before noticing something on the back of it. It was a note. Sorry for burning down your house. Experimental Mexican fireworks. Love, Homer. I hugged the letter and drove the Flanders mobile down to the Springfield power plant to give my neighbor a hug and a thank you. However, when I got there, the fence was locked and drawn. I asked the morbidly obese security guard what the dealio was, and he told me to read the Uncanny Radioactive Men issue number 74576. After telling him comic books were a sin, he instructed me to pay the elderly power plant owner a visit at his nearby mansion. So I did what anyone else would have done. I drove right over and rang the doorbell of the intimidating Gothic-style mansion before I heard an unusual voice that sounded like the audio equivalent of ancient dust. Release the hounds. Oh no! A hidden garage suddenly opened all at once as a hideous horde of hound dogs ran up to me and ate off my mustache, my intestines, and finally my brain. When I woke up, I was in church. Apparently, I worked so hard on the 4th of July nativity scene that I fell right asleep from the efforts. However, something was not quite right. The American flag above the set had been exchanged for an English one. I had woken up in an alternate timeline in which the Revolutionary War had not been fought because of the crap I just said like a minute ago. I let out a scream and then I woke up again. I was in a mental hospital. My understanding is that I watched too many Simpsons episodes on FFX and was hallucinating that I was Ned Flanders because my wife left our church and moved back to England with our pet beagle that she smuggled on board the plane. Oh well, beggars can't be choosers. I ate a can of dog food with a fork and knife, can included, before my house exploded from my neighbors setting off explosive Mexican fireworks in the basement, like explosive diarrhea from Taco Bell products.